Hello and welcome to the Monroe Method Clancast. I am Jason Monroe. This is episode 171. I want to talk about something ridiculously important. So I have done a check-in this week with a client who is eating 27 grams a day of protein. Now that is a scarily low level of protein for anyone. So there are a few parts to this. So this person has actually been a member a couple of times before. And when I went to look back at the historical data, this has been an ongoing issue. 2024, 30 grams of protein a day. 2025, 30 grams of protein a day. 2026, they've now eventually went to weight loss medication. And it's actually shown me something that I had never considered before that I think is really important to talk about. So if you've listened to me talk about weight loss medications, I am all for them. They are a miracle drug for the people that they are supposed to be for. Sadly, because the pharmaceutical companies decided we're just going to let everybody have these, they are being abused by many people to achieve bodies that they will not be equipped to live in. But whatever, right? There's not much we can do about that. I am working with many people who are either on or coming off of weight loss medications because this person, they are well aware that the only thing that's standing between them and going back to the weight that they once were is the fact that they're injecting themselves with their medication of choice. In this instance, it's Mounjaro. Now, here's the thing in this specific case, and again, this is the thing that I had never considered before. So this person, they told me that they are, when they've tried to come off the medication a couple of times, and when they do, the food noise is insane. Now that I have seen their tracking for a week, now that I have seen what their diet looks like, their diet is comprised almost entirely of carbs. Their protein is frighteningly low for an adult. Their fibre is what we typically expect, not eating many fruits and vegetables like most of the UK. But that combination of things, that's what creates food noise, right? Food noise has very unfortunately become this really faddy, marketable term. Oh, I think, God, I don't want to sound like a dick when I say this, but what I mean is, if you are someone who doesn't know very much about nutrition or weight, someone who's been struggling with your weight for a long time, you probably think about food a lot. And then you've got these weight loss medications and ads coming up all the time saying, oh, food noise, we can make that go away. Just one magic injection and that's your food noise solved. And what it does is it's now created this idea that food noise is like an illness. It's this thing that some people have and some people don't. So it creates this idea that food noise is some standalone thing that we're supposed to be thinking. You've got that food noise. Going to your GP and getting diagnosed with food noise, that's not a thing. So you've got these weight loss medications leaning into that and marketing to that. Oh, you can't stop thinking about food. We've got just the thing for that. Now, if you have a lot of food noise, right? This isn't to say that food noise isn't, I have said in the past that it's not a thing. What I mean is it's not a thing in the way that people think it is. What I just explained, right? There are some people who, for physiological reasons, experience more than others, but for the vast majority of people, the overwhelming majority of people, your food noise is self-created because you have an imbalanced diet. What you think is food noise, what you think is cravings for sugar and carbs, that's your body trying to tell you that you are not giving it something. I've just done a live chat with Clan Monroe and we've spoken about hunger and cravings and being able to separate them. If you are someone who experiences intense cravings, right, rather than thinking, I'm just someone who gets intense cravings, I have such a sweet tooth, take a look at your diet. Do you eat any fruits and vegetables? Do you eat any protein? Is the only protein and vegetables you get all day coming from your dinner? Having a balanced diet is not just about health. It's not just about weight management. It's also about energy management. How you feel each day is dependent on the way that you take care of yourself. Fibre is important in the diet because it regulates our blood sugar, right? Fibre in the diet helps regulate blood in the sugar in the bloodstream. If you were to eat a bag of sweets for breakfast, your blood sugar would go through the roof and that would feel fantastic for about 20 minutes. because there's no fibre involved. There is nothing slowing that sugar down. It is getting fucked right into your bloodstream and you go, woohoo, party time. And 20 minutes later, you come crashing down off that high and you feel like shit. That's a very extreme and quick case of what we're talking about. Now, if you eat the equivalent in fruit, well, maybe not the equivalent. I don't know how many grams of sugar there would be in a bag of sweets compared to how many apples or strawberries or grapes it would take. You eat the equivalent level of sugar in fruit and you will feel completely different. Fruit, vegetables, they contain sugar, but they also contain fibre. They come with a built-in sugar regulator. This is one of the reasons that we have such problems with our weights. We've taken the best parts of natural foods and we've just created foods that don't have any of the other stuff in it. We've created all these processed foods that, look, let's take all the sweet stuff out of that because that's great. We don't want any of that fibre stuff. We don't want any of that protein stuff. Just give us the tasty bit. Because the tastier something is, the more people will buy. The more they buy, the more they eat. The faster they eat it, the sooner they run out, the sooner they have to come back and buy more. And that's just how it goes, round and round and round. Now, what's the best way to approach this? So if you are someone who thinks they have a sweet tooth, if you think you have these intense cravings, sorry, that's the wrong thing to say. It's not that you think you have them, it's that you do have them. You experience it, you feel it. It's the only way you know how to describe it. And it's not about, well, it's not a case of what do I need to do about it or my body needs sugar, my body needs chocolate. It doesn't. What your body is doing is trying to get you to go and eat something because of something that you've done earlier in the day or because of something that you're doing or because of something that you're not doing. Statistically, the vast majority of adults, the overwhelming majority of adults in the UK do not eat anywhere near enough fruits and vegetables. Just to give you this as an example, right? 30 to 50 grams a day is considered a healthy range of fibre in adults. That's what we're aiming for. 2 to 5-year-old children are aiming for around 15 grams a day. The reason I'm saying that is most adults in the UK get between 13 to 16 grams. That's the average. The average fibre intake in the UK is 13 to 16 grams. I think it was meant to be like 13 in women and 16 in men or vice versa. I can't remember. I've not looked for a while. But on average, we are eating less than, in fact, we're eating half of the bare minimum recommendation for adults. And that is a huge problem because the absence of that fibre, the absence of that blood sugar regulation, the absence of your body getting the things that it needs is causing a problem. That problem inside your body is a lack of balance, and that lack of balance is the thing that's leading to the cravings, that's making it difficult for you to resist sugar, to resist temptation, to not give in to this and to succumb to that. So now this isn't to say that all food noise is self-created, right? There are other things that influence this. Your menstrual cycle would be one of them. The things that weight loss medications were designed for, people living with obesity who do not have the same appetite regulation as otherwise healthy people, and other isolated, not incidents, but other isolated cases. Food noises, it's a very challenging thing to navigate. You can't just outright say food noise is a self-created thing because it's not. And it's also unfair to say, it's not unfair, it's true to say that the majority of people who think they have food noise, they do have it. I don't want to invalidate it because you do have it, you're experiencing it. It's the only way you know how to communicate it. But we are, oh man, it just drives me nuts. We are so close to food noise overtaking, not being recognized for what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of actually, well, you have food noise, well, let's take a look at your diet because something's going wrong somewhere. If you came to me and I saw that your diet was incredible, your protein was incredible, your fiber was great, you were getting enough sleep, you were well hydrated, your meals were well balanced throughout the day, you were eating regularly, and you were still experiencing high levels of food noise, then we would say, right, time to go to the doctor and get bloods done. Time to start finding out what else is going on. I can count on probably one hand. Now, this is just my experience. We have to be conscious of the people that come to work with me. I can count on one hand the number of people who have actually came to work with me and have had all those things nailed. Now, obviously, You have to take into consideration if somebody had all those things nailed, then they probably wouldn't come to work with me. But I can count on one hand the amount of people who were doing all the right things. There is always something missing. There is always something you can be doing. And it gets even more complex because what if it's not food noise? What if it's comfort eating? What if it's emotional eating? What if the food noise that you're experiencing is the fact that you are someone who uses food to cope with stress? You're going through a very stressful time and your brain says, now would be a great time to go get something to eat. That would be very easily interpreted as food noise. Christ, I've wandered so far from the topic, so let's come back to this person that I was speaking about. So they are eating a terrifyingly low level of protein, and they have been for many years now. But now it's really come to light because, and this was the realization that I haven't had, this person is depriving their body of arguably the most important nutrient of them all. It is creating a huge imbalance, which is presenting itself to that person as unmanageable food noise. And it means that they can't come off the medication because as soon as they do, they're feeling all that again. Now I've took a look at their diet and pointed all this out to them and said, look, you don't have food noise. You have an insanely unbalanced diet. Your body is screaming out for you to give it things that you're not giving it. So the reason that you are, unless we work on this thing and fix this thing, and we now know that this has been an ongoing issue, the person's dipped in a couple of times briefly and then left again, but we now have that historical data to say this is something that you really struggle with. And the things that you struggle with most, those you need to lean into those because those are your pathway to success when it comes to your weight. If you really struggle with meal planning, it's going to be one of your keys to success. If you really struggle with getting enough fibre or getting enough protein into your diet, it's going to be one of your keys to success. If you're someone who really struggles with stopping eating when they start to feel full, or because you're sitting eating in front of the TV, which came up again today with someone who's lost 70 pounds so far, and we're trying to get the next step of the way. So we're trying to make more changes. We're trying to find what the next roadblock is that's holding them back from progressing further. And we found out today that they're collapsing on the couch with the dinner in their lap and they're watching the TV. They think they're not good at stopping eating when they feel full. What they're not good at is concentrating on their food. 90% of their attention's on the TV, 10%'s on the plate in their lap. Of course you're not going to stop when you feel full because you're not connected to the act of eating. You're not quiet and you're not calm and quiet and centered enough to actually receive the signal that says, actually, you're full now, you should probably stop, or you're almost full. So in this instance, weight loss medication has masked what I think would be quite a severe underlying problem. Chronically low protein intakes, they're not common in the UK. And I wouldn't even say that this is chronically low. When we think about places where there are famine and places where hunger is genuine, these places, they're getting next to no protein in their diet, barely any, extremely low levels. This is when you start seeing these adverts on the TV of very frail children with swollen tummies and things. They've no muscle mass to speak of. Their skeletal mass is wasting away. These are some of the more severe symptoms of protein deficiency. But even things like if you get ill all the time, your immune system's massively dependent on protein. If your nails are breaking all the time, if your hair's falling out every time you brush it, if your skin's breaking out, what else for protein? I guess those are the most kind of visible ones, especially if you are listening to this and you're female. These are the things that you spend time on most days, looking at your nails. You probably brush your hair most mornings when you're getting ready for work. You'll notice when there are times when it's falling out more, or it seems to be lying in the bath more, or in the shower tray more, or falling out in the sink. I spoke about this person before who was a fitness influencer, writing an ebook to give people help. And she had no qualifications to speak of. And she was someone whose hair was falling out and nails were breaking all the time because she had abs and she kept showing pictures of her abs to sell her ebook. But she was achieving those abs through a very disordered eating pattern that, while it looked great in recipes and pictures, it was massively underfueling for the amount of exercise that she did because she ran she ran long distances, not ridiculous, ridiculously long, as in longer than I would run for. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this because as ever, it doesn't matter if it's Slimming World or Weight Watchers or shakes or now injections, I'm always very passionate and conscious about things that are doing more harm than good. Weight loss medications had the power to do massive good, and they are. However, the good that they're doing is now being drastically outshone by the damage that they're doing. We don't realize it yet, and I can't predict the future, but I can make predictions. Doesn't mean they're going to be correct, but we are in the midst of something that is going to turn out to be a massive problem. For me, I feel like medications have already peaked. I think they've been around for long enough now that people are realizing that they're not a miracle. You still have to do the work. You still have to do the after work. As soon as you stop taking them, the weight does come back. There's no such thing, and I doubt there ever will be, as a medication that helps you lose the weight and just keep it off. The whole deal is you take the medication and that helps you lose the weight. It helps you act differently. Yes, it quietens the food noise, but do you know what it's like? It's like taking painkillers. You've got something wrong with your ankle and you just keep taking painkillers. The painkillers don't make the pain go away. They just mask it for a little while. There's still something wrong with your ankle. I've had a terrible, I think this has been to do with stress and grinding my teeth in my sleep. I have had a terrible pain in my left jaw since the start of December. I had it for the first time when I went to Gran Canaria at the start of December. I went to the doctors, I went to the dentists, I got antibiotics in New Year because the dentist thought it was a blocked saliva gland. And all I was doing was taking ibuprofen because it made it go away for most of the day. It wasn't fixing the underlying issue. And it's the same here. You know, if you have a lot of food noise and you take a medication, you're suppressing a signal that your body's trying to tell you. You have that food noise because you're doing something wrong somewhere. Not necessarily doing something wrong, but there's something that you're not doing right. Okay, it's almost always going to come down to your dietary balance. Yes, you might be overeating sweets and crisps and snacks and chocolates and takeaway or whatever. That's fine. But what are you also not doing? When I work with people inside the Monroe Method, the first thing we do is fix the balance of your diet, because you don't know what you have to work on if you're not fueling your body properly. You think you need to work on your hunger or your cravings or your food noise or whatever. You think you need to lose weight. Fine. But you need to have a baseline. Once you're giving your body everything that it needs, once it's getting the protein that it needs, the fibre that it needs, the energy balance that it needs across the day, you're no longer overloading it with calories. Ideally, improving your hydration, getting enough sleep. Once you do those things, you've covered that, right? We've nailed it. What's left after that? You know, when I think about all the things that improve when I start working with people for the first week, energy levels improve, sleep's getting better, no longer bloated or sluggish or tired, like all these usual things that people experience. I've got so much more energy. All that shit that they thought there was something wrong with them has been fixed by, number one, no longer treating their body like rubbish, and number two, giving the body the things that it needs. Once you've solved all that, what you're left over with is the stuff you need to work on. It is usually mental stuff, behavioural stuff, coping mechanisms, emotional crutch, leaning on food, eating for comfort, all the usual stuff. But if you don't do that and you go, fuck it, I'll just take a medication to make it all go away, it's just like burying your head in the sand. Yes, it might help you get to a weight that you want to be, but you're not overweight because of your weight. Your weight's where it is for a reason. It's where it's supposed to be. I know that was a bit all over the place. Yeah. I'm not trying to put you off weight loss medications. Just please go into it knowing not the risks. There's always risk involved in everything. I'm not really trying to warn people off the risks, but please make sure that you've exhausted all the options first, right? If you have a balanced diet, if you are sleeping great, hydrating great, you eat plenty of fruits and vegetables, you eat plenty of protein, you eat your meals in a balanced way across the day, you stop eating when you start to feel full. If you have a physiological issue going on, the medication will help you. If it's not, then it's just an accelerated yo-yo diet, I'm afraid. I hate the idea. Do you know what? It's not even that I hate the idea of people spending the money on them, because if you can afford it, people would pay anything to be the weight that they want to be. What I hate is the idea of someone getting a taste of what it feels like to live at their goal weight and for it to be immediately snatched away from them. moment they stop taking medications or they can't afford to continue them. This is why I love it when people are on medications or they're planning to come off it and then they come to work with me like this person. Because we have now identified, well, this is why you can't get off the medication. You are eating nothing, practically nothing when it comes to protein. You're eating just over 100 calories a day of protein. Everything else that you're eating is coming from mostly from your carb intake. And that's the thing we need to fix. And when we fix that, then we can get you off the medication. Once we're giving your body the thing that you're depriving it of, that it's screaming out for, that it's trying to tell you it needs, you'll be able to get off it. Then you'll be able to stay at the weight that you are and you won't put any weight back on. Then you get to go on and live your life at maintenance. Oh. Anyway, enough from me. It was a very passionate episode. Until next time.